Hello and welcome to my new Pokemon tutorial series. We'll call this Pokemon version 2. The old project that I was doing, my hard drive crashed, I lost the project, I didn't make any backups, so restarting. There's a link in the description of this video. It contains a folder that has this. You should extract that. And once you've extracted it, you can just open it and leave it open there. I'm using Unreal Engine 4.3. I created a third-person example template, and here we are. Okay, so now we're gonna make some folders. First folder being Pokemon. Inside of this folder we have a couple more folders, one called meshes, one called materials, and one called animations. Inside of our materials folder we'll have another folder called character materials, and then another folder, not a C++ class, another folder called red. Okay, and inside this folder we'll have another folder called textures, and then we'll go back to our Pokemon folder, open up the meshes folder and make another folder called character meshes. Now we'll open up this folder and we'll make another folder called red. Okay, we've got our Pokemon folder, animations folder, and we'll make a folder in here called animations. We'll make another folder called blend spaces, and another folder called anim graph. Okay, inside of animations folder we're going to make a folder called locomotion. And now we are done with making folders. We're going to get to our Pokemon folder, go to meshes, character meshes, red, and now we've got that open. We're going to open up that shared file I shared with you guys. We're going to open up the animations file and bring in breathing idle. Okay, we're going to leave it all at default and import. Alright, so now we've done that. First thing we're going to do is go to the skeleton. We're going to rename it. We're going to call this Red's skeleton. We're going to rename the physics asset to Red's physics asset. Red's physics asset, not Bread's. Red's. Sorry, my keyboard is freaking out. I'll delete this animation. I will rename this to red, or rather let's call him player red. Okay, then we're going to grab all of these materials, we're going to search our materials folder, red, and we're going to put them in that red folder. So move them to your materials folder, character materials, red. Okay, now they're all in here. Save, compile, open up all of them. We're going to go to our textures folder, and we're going to import the textures from our shared document thingy. Let's just import them all. We're not going to use them all for the time being, just to keep the video quick. Okay, and then we're going to go to our body material and bring in the body albedo, plug it into base color, go to eye, bring in your eye albedo, plug it into base color, hair, bring in the hair albedo, into base color, OBJ, bring in your OBJ one. This is just the backpack, I don't know why it's named OBJ, but whatever. Go to your skin and bring in your skin albedo and plug it into base color. Okay, so now that's all done. I'm just going to hit save all. Save current. actually have to save each one of these, unfortunately. So let me do that quickly. Once we've done this, we can bring in the animations for our new skeleton. And I think I'll wrap this video up there, and we'll start on blend spaces, animations, and all sorts of other things after that. Okay, so now all of those are saved. I'm going to go back to my Pokemon folder, in the content browser. Just minimize that so it doesn't interfere. And I'm going to make another folder, like folders. I'm going to call this blueprints. Open it up, and I'm going to make another folder, call this actors. And another folder, we're going to call this, what are we going to call this? Enumerations. Okay, inside of actors, we're going to right click, blueprint class, character, and we're going to call this player base. Okay, and back to our blueprints folder, enumerations. We're going to go blueprints, enumeration, and we're going to call this locomotion states. Alright, so now we've got that. We're going to go back to our animations folder, animations, locomotion, and we're going to import some stuff here. Let's go to our red folder, animations, and select all of these, bring them all in. We're going to select red skeleton and import all. Just gotta wait for it. It takes a little while. Sorry about that. Okay, now all of those are in. I'm gonna go back to animations folder, blend spaces, and create animation blend space. I'm gonna call for red skeleton. Okay, and then we're gonna call this walk. Yes. I'm gonna open it up, maximize it, and for the horizontal axis we're gonna call this right value, and for the vertical axis we'll call this forward value. Okay, and the minimum on both of them will be -1. Okay, and the maximum will be 1. Alright, so then we're going to grab our walking forward animation, which is just walking, and then walking backwards. We'll plug into the bottom, right strafe walking on the right, and left strafe walking on the left. And we want the breathing idle in the middle. Okay, save. And then we're going to duplicate it, and call this jog PS. Go back to our walk, duplicate it, and call this run PS. Jog BS, and we'll find our jog backwards, plug it in the bottom, jog diagonal backwards, plug it into the right bottom, jog diagonal backward 1, we'll plug it in over here, jog forward, we'll plug it in at the top, jog forward diagonal, we'll plug in at the top right, jog forward diagonal 1, we'll plug it in at the top left, we need a jog strafe left on the left, and jog strafe right on the right. And save. And then we can open up our run BS and do a similar thing. So running at the top, running at the bottom, right strafe on the right, and left strafe on the left. And save. Alright, we'll go to animations folder, anim graph, and right click and go animation. Create animation blueprint for red skeleton, and click OK. And we'll call this reds num graph. Okay. And we'll go back to our Pokemon folder, blueprints, actors, open up our player base. Inside of here, we want to set the skeletal mesh to player red. scale him down to fit in the box, and rotate him to face forward. Okay, let me switch my snapping on, and rotate him 90 degrees, and that should be good. Compile, and then I'm going to just ready, go to use animation blueprint, and go to reds and graph. Okay, compile, and then inside of here, we're not going to do anything just yet, we'll just add a new variable, and we'll call this locomotion states. Alright, just double check what I called the enumeration, locomotion states. Okay, so then we'll search for that. Motion states, compile, and then we're going to need some inputs. Because we're using the third person example, we can just type in move forward and move right. Okay, then we're going to drag off these access values. So for the move forward, we're going to promote it to variable, call it forward value, and then for the move right, we're going to promote it to variable and call it right value. Then we're going to add movement input on the end of both of these. So just duplicate it, plug it in, and use the right value as the scale here and the forward value as the scale over here. Okay, then we need a world direction. So we're going to get control rotation, and we're going to break it because we only want the yaw, and we'll make it, so we make rotator, plug in only the yaw, and then we'll drag off and say get forward vector. We'll clean this all up later on. The forward vector goes into the move forward, and then say get right vector, and the right vector will go into the move right. So compile. We'll take this yaw off, or actually leave it on. Leave that on. Alright, so most of the setup is done. Just go into blueprints, enumerations, open up locomotion states, and add 3. I'll call the first one walk, the second one will be jog, and the third one will be run. Then we can go to our animation graph, reds anim graph, and finally do some stuff in here. So state machine is what we want to add, and we'll drag off here and say default slot, and then plug it in. I'm going to our new state machine, add breathing idle, pull off there, and then we'll go to our walk BS, bring that in, rename this to movement, and we'll have some transitions on there. Don't worry about that for now. We're going to go to the event graph on our blueprint, drag off of here, say cast to player base. Now we've got our player base, we're going to say get forward value, get the right value, and get his locomotion states, and also off of the get pawn owner, we're going to get velocity, and we're going to get its length, vector length, and we're going to promote this to a variable. I'm going to call this speed, promote our locomotion states to a variable, we'll call this loco states, and the other two here, so right value we'll just call this right, and forward we'll just call forward, and make sure they are all plugged in. As I said, we'll organize this in a different video, just quick setup here. Okay, so now we've got some issues. So to enter the state, we're going to check that our speed is greater than 10. So if it's greater than 10, we can enter our plane spaces. And then to exit, we'll just check that the opposite, basically. So check that it's less than 10. So if it's less than 10, we can exit back into idle. Okay, then we'll go into our movement, disconnect this, zoom out a bit. We've got a walk BS, we want to bring in our run BS and our jog BS. Okay. And we'll drag off of our jog BS and say blend poses by bool. And we'll set this true time to blend by 2.7 and just copy it into the false blend time and plug false into walk. Okay. We need to plug our values in, so we're going to plug in right to right values on all of these respectively, as well as the forward value, the ones that we just created in our event graph. We're going to take this blend pose by bool, duplicate it. We're going to plug this into the false pose of the new one, and the true pose will go into our run BS. Okay, then we'll get our locomotion states. And we'll say equal enum, and if it's equal to jog, then we'll go into the jog pose. If it's not equal to jog, we'll go into the walk pose. And we'll take this, duplicate it, and check if it's running. So if it's running, then we'll go into the running pose. If it's not, then we'll check the other two. Okay, and make sure you plug this into the result and compile and save. Right, I think that's most of it set up for now. Okay, we'll continue in the next video. Actually, let's just do it now. So I'm going to type in left shift, and on press left shift we're going to get our locomotion states and we're going to switch on them. And what we're going to do is set them to different things. So if we are walking, we want to start jogging. If we are jogging, we want to start running, and if we are running, we want to walk. Okay. Then what we're going to do is make a timeline. So add timeline. I'll just leave its name as timeline node. Set its length to 1. Oop, undo that. And add 2 new keys by pressing shift and left click. We'll set the time of the first one to 0 and the value to 0, and of the second one we'll set the time to 1 and the value to 1. Okay, so compile, and then we're going to take this, duplicate it twice. I do that by pressing Ctrl W, and we'll just space it out a little bit. We'll do the organization, don't worry. And then we're going to do something. So we're going to need 2 functions for this. So we're going to make a function, and we're going to call it camera effect, and it's going to have an input of float. I'm going to call this desired arm length. I'll make another one. We'll call this alpha. Okay, compile. We'll just duplicate this function and we'll rename it. We'll call it speed effect. Alright, so now I got this speed effect and the thingy effect. We're going to take on the speed effect and rename the first input to desired speed. Alright, then on our speed effect we're going to grab our character movement. We're going to get max walk speed, and we'll also set max walk speed. Alright, so then what we're going to do here is we're going to right click and we're going to say a loop, just a normal loop, and we're going to plug this alpha into that alpha. A will go into our max walk speed, and the desired speed will be B, and then the return value will set our new max walk speed. Okay, and then similarly we're going to open the camera effect and do the same kind of thing. First we're going to have to add a camera. Realize now we don't have one, so add component, and this will be a spring arm, and then onto our spring arm we want to add a camera. Okay, then we're going to grab our spring arm, and we're going to drag off and we say get target arm length, and we'll also drag off and say set target arm length. Alright, plug that in, and we'll do another loop. Plug the alpha into the alpha, desired arm length into B, and the target arm length into A, and the return value into our what we want it to be. Okay, so now we've got these two functions. We're going to plug them into here. So camera effect and speed effect. And we'll plug the alphas in. Well, the new track time here, this float, is our alpha. Okay. So I'm going to take this, duplicate it twice, sort of get it in line, and plug the alphas in. So now we need to figure out what our default speed is going to be for walking. So for default walking speed, I'm going to set it to 190. Okay, so this would be setting it to walk. So our desired arm length right now is 300, I just happen to know that, and the desired speed, I want it to go back to 190. Then if we are walking, we go to jog, and I want to set the arm length up, so we'll set it to like 550. Yeah, let's do 450, and the desired speed will bump up to 250. So, okay, and then on run, our desired speed will go all the way up to 420, and the desired arm length can go all the way to 650. Okay, and essentially that should work. Just make sure our locomotion state is set to walk. Compile. What else do we have to do? Now I've already deleted mine, but there should be a third person character in here. You're gonna have to delete him, the blueprint, and then this was set to none, so you'll have to set it to third person game mode, and then change this default pawn to your new character. Mine is called play base. Okay, and you can push play. Oh, I didn't adjust the camera. So let's go over here to the viewport, and go to spring arm, and rotate it 90 degrees to being behind the player, lift it up a bit, and maybe give it like a 10-degree tilt. Okay, so compile and play, and there we go. Now he's walking around. This is the walking blend space. One more thing we can do, go to animations, locomotion, animations, blend spaces, go to each of the blend spaces, go to the interpolation time and set this to 0.5. So I'm just going to Control C and view that into each of these. The interpolation time, that is. This will just give us a little bit of a smoother transition between each animation, because we're using such a snappy way of determining it. And there we go. Yeah, so that's much better. It's going much slower between animations, and now I press shift and he is now jogging, and his speed goes up over 1 second, and the camera zooms out over 1 second. And then I press shift again, and now he's running. Okay, so that'll do it for this first part of our Pokemon version 2 tutorial. And the next one we'll add jumping, some mouse controls, and maybe even our first Pokemon again. Cool, thanks for watching, cheers.